Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. Welcome to another mini mandala video. So in these videos, I show you how to draw beautiful mandalas with just a few basic tools. So I have my Micron pen. This is a PN, plastic nib pen. I have a coin. Mine is a penny. I have a little piece of scrap paper that I'm going to use as a ruler. And then I've got my pencil and a blending tool and an eraser. The last thing I have is a piece of paper. Mine is a 5x5 little sketchbook, but you can use anything that you have lying around. All right, so let's begin by picking up our pen and putting our coin somewhere on our paper and tracing it. There we go. Okay, so now before we get started with the patterns, we need to make a grid. And this is where these videos don't use complicated things like rulers or a compass. So we just use, we just sort of guess at how we do this. And I think they come out looking more whimsical and beautiful, and we don't have to worry about messing with measurements. Okay, so I'm going to put a horizontal line across what I feel like is the center of my circle. And I'm doing it in pencil so that I can erase it later. And then I do a vertical line. Again, just kind of guessing. And then we divide up each of these 4 sections in half as well. And we're just looking to see if these are about the same size after we divide it. So just check and see. Okay. All right, and I'm going to divide these again. I don't usually do this, but for this particular one, I do want to add another set of lines. I'm not going to go all the way into the center. I'm just going to go like right about here and divide each one of these sections in half. I know this seems like a lot of lines, but these will help us today. And then you can glance at them and see if they look similar. I've got some that are much wider than others, and it's okay as long as they look basically even, then I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, I'm going to grab my piece of scrap paper that we're going to use like a ruler, and I'm going to set it at the top of my circle on that first line that I did. And I want to make a little notch about 2 pencil widths up, maybe a little more than 2. So let's see, 1, maybe 2.5. And I put the little notch on the paper and then also onto my sketch. And then I'm going to skip these little additional lines. I'm just going to go to those main lines. It doesn't matter if you do all of them, it just takes longer. So just working your way all the way around, adding these little notches. And if you are more comfortable, you can add notches to those other lines as well. It's up to you. And then we're going to use these to create our circle. So I just connect them very lightly with my pencil. And I do a slightly curved line since we are making a circle. There we go. All right, I need to make another line. So I have my little ruler thing here at the top of my circle, and I have that notch. Then I want to make one more notch out here that's just going to be maybe a little bit bigger than the width of my pencil. So I'm going to do one more of those. Again, going all the way around. And if you want, you can adjust some lines now. As we get further out, it's more obvious which ones are really narrow or really wide. So if you need to change anything, go ahead. You can also add your notch to those extra lines that we made if you want to. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to connect those with a slight curve. I like to just rest my hand on the paper and just sort of let my hand very gently create that circle. I can even turn it as I go. And because this is in pencil, you can adjust it at any time. All right, there we go. My cat just entered the room and she's got on her little bell. So let's see if I can get that off so she doesn't bother us with that. There you go. Okay. All right, so we have our basic couple of circles in there, and now we're ready to get drawing. Okay, now is when we switch to pen. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put, oh no, my kitty wants to join us. Hey, sweetie, I love you, but you can't be up here right now. All right, I don't know if that worked or not. We'll see. Okay, so we're going to add an aura on the inside of this circle, just because I like how that separates the areas. Zoom in a little bit for you. All right, I'm really excited about this mandala. It's going to be, I don't know, I like to do something a little bit different each week. And this one is going to be wholly unique in that we're going to be drawing one bigger object over and over again to create our mandala. So I'm very excited about this. All right, if you followed my March Doodle Challenge, we made little tulips, and it was a Zentangle called Tulipa. I can't remember who made that. I'll have to look that up. But it was Tulipa, and it was so pretty that we're going to attempt to put that into our grid. Okay, so I'm going to begin at these 4 first lines that we made. And I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to put in a line that goes all the way down to the edge, but I want the top to be pointed and then I want it to get slightly wider at the bottom. So I'm going to start up here and then I'm going to go to the side of that line just a little bit, start up here and go just a little bit to the side. Then I'm going to do this one. So I start with that point and then I come just slightly to the side. These are going to be stems of our tulips. Slightly to the side and slightly to the side. All right, it's already looking good. You guys doing okay? Okay, now we are going to do the 4 corner sections. So to do those, I'm going to change my tulip just a little bit. If you don't want to change it, go ahead and do the point and work out. But there's another way to make the tulips where we start with more of an open top and then we come straight down the side of that and then we aura. So we do this little open area up here and then we come down. We do that one over here. So maybe I'll use these side grids as a guideline. So I'm going to go like this and then down, pretty straight, and then this way and then down. So we still need a stem. We just have this little wide area at the top. And again, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. One more to do. Make sure you're getting that center line. Leave these two open right now and do that middle part. All right, it already looks pretty cool. Imagine just starting a mandala out like this and then filling in these areas with fun shapes. Like you can always change up what you do. Okay, now we're going to put in these tulip petals. So if you want to do this in pencil, you can. Maybe I'll do that first too, just to show you. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and I'm going to kind of curve in, out, and then tuck in right where this line is right here. Okay, so I want my tulip to start at the point, and it's going to curve out this way, and then it's going to touch the side, come around, touch the bottom, and go here. I know that sounds like a lot. It's a backwards S. So start up here, go out, and go in. When we do the opposite side, we start curve in, out, and in. And I really want this to sort of come out here so you can see the top of the tulip. And I might even like bump mine up right here. So watch, I'm going to come out and bump up a little, out and bump up a little. Looks like a spade, like in a deck of cards. Right, I'm going to do those four first. So come out and curl around. It's almost like a heart, right? It's like an upside down heart. There's our little tulip flowers. Okay, now I'm going to work on these tulips and I'm going to put in some leaves. And to make my tulip leaves, I'm going to use flux. So we have tulipa and we have flux. So to do flux, I'm going to come to the side of the stem and I'm going to make this really pretty like upside down raindrop type shape. So I'm going to go up, touch that side and come down. On the opposite side, I can already tell this is a much bigger section than this one, but that's okay. Let's scoop up and come down. I'm going to add a detail of a line and a dot, and a line and a dot. Okay, then I'm going to go to this one. Put in that big curve. And so I do like a nice round top, and then I curve in just a little bit before I come down to the stem. Put in a line and a dot, a line and a dot. All right, I've got one more to do. All right, you're doing great. I think you got this. Okay, how's it looking? Are you happy with it? I hope you're not frustrated. Okay, now we're going to do these other four with that little open top. And what I like about the open top is that we can put an extra little petal in there when we're done. So I'm going to take this first one. I'm going to do that same shape where I'm going to kind of curve in, out, and then under here. So I'm going to curve in, out, and then up, in, out, and then up. Kind of like that upside down heart. We just have an open bottom this time. And then up here in this little area, I can go from the center of one of those lines up and down to the other one, and then I can ink in that part. See how it looks like that, like an extra petal of a tulip? Oh, let's go ahead and add the leaves while we're here. So same leaves right here. So I'm going to go up, curve down, all right, then I'm going to go to this one, do that S shape again. So come down, out, touch that one, come around. Put in that little top petal there. Ink in that extra. Add in those flux shaped leaves. All right, we've got two more. In, out, and up. In, out, and up. Add in those leaves. And that little bump at the top if you want. Okay, one more. Okay, look at how amazing that looks. Seriously, I feel like that looks pretty good. Okay, if you're all caught up, we have now all of these little extra spaces that were left over. So in these little spaces, I think they look like little leaves. Like maybe this is two leaves to this flower. I don't know. I just think they turned out kind of cute. So I'm going to repeat what I did in my flux. I'm going to give it a little line and a dot and a line and a dot. Same thing on these. And some of mine, look at how funny this one looks. It's okay. They're a little bit different shapes and sizes, but I'm going to come from that center point out and make that line and a dot. Okay, now I'm going to trace around this outer circle. So I'm just going to kind of play connect the dots. I'm just going to go from one stem to the next, turn as I go. It is okay if this is not a perfect circle. I imagine anybody who sees this, who looks at your project, is going to think it looks incredible. And they're not going to even notice if some of your lines are a little wiggly or off. Doesn't that look amazing? Okay, so now I want to add a little bit of texture. So I'm going to just take a section like this, and I have this empty space down here, and then I have these little empty spaces that are left over as well. And so I thought what would be fun is to fill those with lines. And I want my lines to go parallel to the grid lines. So I still have my little center grid line there as well. And I want them, so maybe I'll start with that one. Then I'll just come down that grid line, and then I'll go next to it. And I want these to be really thin. Really delicate. And I go to the other side. And I'm not that concerned about these lining up, so if I just want to do the bottom ones first, I can, and then I can go in and fill the top. See, you can't even tell they're not lined up. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to start in that center of each section on that little pencil line. And add these in. I love adding texture in this way. And I love the repetitiveness of it, that I don't really have to think about it right now. I can let my mind wander. I can think about other things. I can just enjoy this moment while adding these little texture lines. Look at how amazing it's looking. And if you made this again and you wanted to change it a little bit, you would not have to do these lines. You could do little dots. You could put in some color or just some shading. You could fill this with little orbs. And you could even make the texture go up into these little extra petals that I kind of made up in there. Those could be texture lines as well. I just really wanted my tulips to sort of disappear, so that is not the first thing that you see when you look at this mandala. I want it to be a little less obvious what it is. And what I love about mandalas is that anybody looking at this has no idea what parts you made first. And so when they look at it, it looks really complicated. I think mandalas always look like some of the most intricate art. And if you know that it's just one little step at a time, one little line at a time, you start to realize how doable it is, how you can accomplish making a mandala with just a few lines at a time. So I'm on my last section. I know that I tend to be a little faster. So if you need to pause right now and finish this up, go ahead. And then we're going to do a little outer edge and then some shading and we'll be done. Okay, for my outer edge, I want to start by adding an aura, just a really thin aura. If you're not comfortable making another little line around it, then you can skip this part. In my practice one, I did not add this line and it looked great. I just kind of want to add it this time. Sometimes these auras really test our patience and our ability to focus and keep this line going the right way and not getting all silly and wiggly and whatever. So if you're not comfortable, just skip it. Okay, so we could just end the mandala here. Typically my mandala videos are about 30 minutes and we've already spent 30 minutes. However, I thought it would be really fun to put little mini tulips all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to show you how I do that. All right, I'm going to take each of these sections, and I'm going to put about 2 in each section. But also, I'm not going to worry about it because it's the outer edge of a circle. It does not need to match anything, okay? So I'm going to put in these little U shapes, and I'm not going to make an outer line. I'm just going to kind of guess. If you want to use your ruler to make another outer pencil line as a guide, you sure can. So I'm going to start here and I'm just going to go up, up, and again, I'm trying to put about 2, and they are about the width of my pinky fingernail. If I make these too tiny, then I will be here all day working on these. So I've already messed up my 2 per section because I'm just putting them in. So now I'm going to ignore those grid lines and I'm just going to let this happen wherever they land. So again, the smaller you make these, the more you have to do, which turns out beautiful. But if you don't want to spend a lot of time, then you can make these larger. And then as I get close to my starting point, I just want to make sure that I end on a full U. All right, so right here, I'm gonna try to fit 3 in there. 1, 2, a little bit squishy, but that's okay. All right, and to make this ending, I'm going to take each of these points and I'm going to make a little bump out to the right. So like bump out to the right. So it's to the right and down, to the right and down. Look how cute that is. But then I'm going to go from the next point across to the one I just made and then put a little tulip top. So I'm going to take this point and go across to that one and a little tulip top. Across and a tulip top. So it's up to you if you want to do all of these right sides first. Bump out and down, out and down. Or if you want to do the whole thing at once, you go out and down, go from the other side across, and then put in your little back part. So cute. So I'm going to do all of my points into the right first. Then I'm going to go back in and put in from that other point to the left and my little topper. This little pattern could be a mandala by itself. Isn't it so cute? I love how this looks. I also love just that first little pattern that we made. Wouldn't that be cute to do as like little leaves as a border? So cute. I love it. All right, and while you are finishing that up, I am going to ink in these little leftover spaces between each tulip. So I live in Michigan in the United States, and tulips are one of our very first signs of spring. I also live near a town called Holland, Michigan, and they do a tulip festival every year, and they grow thousands of beautiful tulips, and they do the wooden shoe dancing. They have a festival and craft shows, and it's a pretty big celebration. I love tulips. I love all the different colors they come in. I love the shape of them. All right, how are you feeling on this? Look at how filling in this little end looks so amazing. This is probably one of my larger mandalas. Usually my mini mandalas are smaller than this. This one got kind of large, but I really love it. So as I finish up filling in here, you of course can pause if you're not quite ready. But I want to do a quick little bit of shading and then we'll be done. Okay, look at that. That looks really great. I love it so much. Okay, so for shading, I'm going to go around every single tulip shape. So I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to go the outside of that petal, outside of that leaf. And then I go to the opposite side of that same one. I go around the petal, down the stem, outside of the leaf. And then when I take my blending tool and I push that out, look how pretty that looks. I'm always amazed at how the shading looks so cool. So I'm going to go the outside of the petals, down the stem, around the leaf. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that rather quickly. I'm going to do every single one, and then I'll go back and spread that out. So you want your pencil, your graphite, to be right up against the line that you are shading. And then when we use our blending tool, we're going to try not to cross the line. We're going to try to just pull it away from the line that you are working on. Does that make sense? Around the petal, down the stem, around the leaf. Petal, stem, leaf. Petal, stem, leaf. All right, and then while I still have my pencil in my hand, I'm going to put some on the inside edge of this outer circle. Just right up against the top there. Okay, now I take my blending tool and I'm just going to go around the flower, around that petal, around the leaf. I'm just sort of softening it and pushing it out into that textured area. And we really want those tulip petals to stay nice and white. And we want our leaves to stay nice and white. So we're pushing away from the petal and away from the leaf. And where the two petals touch, I'm not really doing much blending right there because I want them both to stay pretty white. Look at how stunning that is. All right, I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase the center. And I'm going to erase these outer grid lines that are still on my paper. So I am using a kneaded eraser. And if you have not tried one of these, they're amazing because look, it doesn't leave any residue when you're done. Okay, a little bit more shading and then we'll be done. I'm going to put some shading on the inside of this circle. And I'm going to leave the inside of my circle empty, but you could draw a little tulip. You could put a little gem in there or a special word that means something to you. Whatever you want. I'm just going to shade mine and leave it. Okay. And then I would love to go and shade the entire outside, but I do think that would take too long. But I do want to do a little bit of shading on each of these little tulips. So let me just show you what I'm going to do. So that very first curve line, I'm going to put a little shadow there and then a little shadow underneath that tiny point. It's so small and subtle, but look, when I do that, it just gives it some layer. Maybe I won't even do that little triangle. I'm just going to do this little line right here where it goes over the other petals. And look at how just gives it that little bit of layering. So you can skip this part if you'd like. But I'm going to do that, and I'm putting such a tiny amount because it's a very small space. Look at how quickly I can just go all the way around. And I just take my blending tool and I soften it a little bit. Oh, I didn't realize I'm off the paper. I'm sorry. Sometimes I get lost in what I'm doing and I just forget that you're watching and that it needs to be on the screen. Okay, look at that. That was probably one of our longest ones, but oh my goodness, I love that so much. Okay, I'm going to initial my work at the bottom. And then if you have colored pencils or a watercolor and you want to color this one in, it would be so beautiful. You could also add just some little like rounding reflection type things on the sides of some of your petals. You don't have to, but you can. And there we go. There's our little mandala. And we use, let me just write this down, we used Tulipa and we used Flux. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you loved that one. Have a wonderful week and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.